Hello everyone. Well, today is Thursday, November 14th, and I don't know where you live, but down here in South Carolina, it is raining and it's very cool. So it's a perfect day for me to spend some time in the kitchen making a pot of soup. Today we're going to make probably most people's favorite, which is chicken soup. It is really true when they tell you that it is a great remedy for colds, and it certainly is something that you want to have in your freezer ahead of time. Don't wait till you have that cold, because then you're not in the mood to make it. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to know is that I'm going to be using one whole chicken, 5 pounds, a 5-pound roaster, and to that, I'm going to be adding some carrots, some celery, onion, and some herbs. I'm going to add a nice handful of parsley and thyme and a couple of bay leaves. So the first thing you want to do is I'm going to leave the skin on the onion. You don't have to. It's been told to me, whether it's true or not, that the skin will actually color your broth a little bit. There's not that much skin on this onion, so I highly doubt it's going to do a whole lot. But I am going to just trim the root end. We don't want that in our stock, because actually right now, what we're going to do is make the stock and cook the whole chicken. Then we will continue with making the soup. So just take your onion and cut it in half. That's all you need to do to your onion. And then with your celery, 4 celery stalks washed and trimmed is plenty for a 5-pound roaster. I just like to cut the celery stalks in half. I don't know, I just feel that it draws out the flavor into the broth. So that's the reason why I do that. And if you happen to have a few pieces with the celery leaves have a lot of flavor. So I'm going to also throw this in because I have it. And then 4 large carrots. And once again, I just like to cut them in half, just to make sure that the flavor of the carrot is going into the broth. So let's just cut that in half. And now we are ready to cook our chicken and, in essence, make our broth. So let's just talk about a pot. You can just use a regular pot like this, and basically you do want a pot large enough to cover your chicken with cold water, which this is plenty big. And I just wanted to share an idea with you. At the restaurant, when I would make a lot of soup, I used to use a very large pasta pot. This one is quite large. If you have a standard one, you can definitely use it for one 5-pound roaster. In here, I used to be able to put 2 or 3 whole roasters in here. And what's really nice about using a pasta pot is you're going to put all of your vegetables, your herbs, your chicken in here, cover it with cold water, and then simmer it. When it's all done, all you have to do is lift out your pot, set it on your tray in front of me here, and then you can pull your meat and discard all of the vegetables, because the flavor of the vegetables are now all in the broth. There's no more flavor left in these vegetables. So this is a wonderful way of doing it quickly, as opposed to having to go in and scoop out. And you don't want to dump and strain, because any of the impurities that are at the bottom of the pot, you don't want that in your stock. So if you happen to have one of these, this is a wonderful way to do it. So we're going to just put in our whole roaster and all of our cut up vegetables. Put in our onion halves. I have 2 bay leaves here, just a small bundle of fresh thyme. You can even tie all of this together if you wanted to, just butcher twine. And so basically a small bunch, maybe 4 or 5 sprigs of fresh thyme, and do about the same with the parsley. So let's just tie it up. It'll even be that much easier to pull out. Now what you want to do is you want to cover this completely. So let's see for 1 5-pound roaster how much water we need. I just have a quart here. My guess is that you're going to want about 3 quarts of cold water. And then you're going to bring this to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you need to simmer this nice and low. You want it to just barely bubble around the edges. You don't want to boil this. If you boil it, your stock will become very cloudy. Okay, I'm going to transfer this into this smaller pot. Because I only have 1 roaster in here, this is going to require a lot more water, and there's not enough vegetables and meat to make a really good broth in a large pot like this one is. Let's go ahead and put this water directly in here. And now it has completely covered our chicken. So you want at least, I like to at least have 1 inch of water above my whole chicken. So I'm going to add another quart. And now everything is completely covered. My onions, my celery, my carrots, and there's about, I'm gonna say, a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of water, about 1 inch of water above the chicken, which is what you're looking for. Now, one last ingredient. Judy Rogers owned a restaurant in California called the Zuni Cafe, and she studied over in Europe, and she was an amazing chef. And she's one of the few people that I've ever seen that she always adds a bit of salt to her stocks. And I find that it is extremely helpful. It doesn't require a lot, and it does make a difference. So here, I'm going to add just 1 teaspoon of Diamond kosher salt, not Morton's, right into the pot. It will help draw all these wonderful flavors together. So now I'm going to bring this to a boil and then lower it to just a bare simmer. And I do want to mention that if you happen to have a diffuser, this is a copper diffuser. If you have a diffuser, it's a good time to use it because sometimes you can't help but have the center start to boil, and a diffuser will stop that. So if you happen to have one, this is a good time to use it. Okay, so let's first bring this to a boil, and then we'll talk about the rest of our ingredients. I'm going to start it with a cover just to bring it to a quick boil. There we go. Once the meat is done, we take it out, we let it cool down, and then we can shred all the meat off of the carcass, and all that meat is going to go into our delicious broth. To that same amount, 4 stalks of celery, 4 large carrots, and then you can decide whether you want to use a sweet onion or, in this case, a leek. I happen to love leeks, and so I'm going to use a leek. Look at the size of this. This is just gorgeous. So I'm going to use a leek, but if you don't have one, a sweet onion works perfectly. And what we're going to do is get this all ready for our soup. And then the last ingredient will be some type of pasta or rice, but you don't add it to your soup. You cook your pasta, whether it's ditalini or angel hair pasta or any type, orzos, any type of rice, you cook it separately. And then you add your pasta to your soup when you're ready to serve it. If you put your pasta into it, and I'm sure you all know this, it will absorb all your broth. You can either slice it, dice it, make it into large chunks. If you want to make it a real country style soup, you can do whatever you prefer. I tend to dice most of my vegetables, and I like so that when I take my spoon, I can get a taste of everything. I can get the celery, the carrot, the pasta, and the meat all on one spoon. That's the way I like it. And at the restaurant, when we used to make this, we would make it pretty elegant by making some wonderful dumplings that would float on top of the soup. The dumplings I would make out of pâte de choux or choux paste, and they were very light and delicate and delicious. Here, we're going to serve it with pasta. And I happen to enjoy angel hair pasta, so I'm just going to cook some angel hair to go into the soup. Okay, so once you have all your vegetables together, just go ahead and dice them. But what you want to do, whether you're going to do it in large chunks, if you're going to slice, whatever you want to do, just make sure that they're all about the same size. That's kind of important because you want them to cook evenly. So here are our carrots. All right, I just want to talk about the leek. The onion you would just dice, the celery you would just dice exactly like I showed you how the carrots are right here. I would do the celery the same exact way. I certainly don't need to spend that time with you here. And here is our leek. The only thing that's important to know about a leek is that a lot of dirt gets in between each layer of the onions. So I find that it's just best to first slice or dice your leek and then put it in a bowl of water, room temperature, cool water, and the dirt will go to the bottom of the bowl. And then you can just use a spider like this, a ladle, and you can scoop out all of your leeks. And if there's a little bit of water clinging to them, that's perfectly okay. So let me just, I would say a half of this leek is about the size of a medium onion. So I do think this is probably going to be enough. Another thing I wanted to mention to you, I'm almost done. All my vegetables are ready, except for I have one stalk of celery that I just wanted to share with you that at the restaurant, we used to peel the back of each celery stalk, just so that the celery is a lot more tender. So you just need to use a peeler and just go in and peel and get rid of all of that fibrous parts of the celery that you don't need. But if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. I just wanted to share that with you. I have a saute pan ready. I have it on low. I'm just going to check and see how this is doing. It's still taking its time. It takes a while to come to a boil. The first thing I will add here are the leeks. You do need to season your vegetables early on, especially for leeks. You want to be able to taste the salt a little bit. Okay, so let's raise our heat now that we're ready to go ahead and sweat. And I want to add another idea here. If you happen to have parchment paper, when we would sweat vegetables at the restaurant and we wanted all that flavor to stay inside the vegetable, you can take a piece of parchment paper and make a cartouche. That's what it's called, but it's just a parchment round that we're going to put on top of the vegetables. or you can take just a lid and cover them. I'm just going to show you the French way of doing it. Okay, so here we go. This butter is completely melted, and I'm going to put in my leeks. I'm going to take a teaspoon of diamond kosher salt and add it to the leeks. We're looking just to make a round that's going to fit inside the frying pan. So you just want to find the center. It's about here, and just go around and make a tiny little hole right at the tip. And now you have a cartouche. And there's a little hole, and we're going to let those vegetables sweat nice and slowly. And I don't think it's going to take more than about 10 minutes. They should be perfectly cooked. So now I can go ahead and add my celery and carrots. There we go. I'm just going to put this nice little bundle of thyme right on top. And I'll put the cartouche, and we will let this sweat for about 10 minutes. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. Just take a cover and cover it. And just make sure that it's low enough that your vegetables are not caramelizing at all. You're not looking for any color on your vegetables. All right, let's lower this. Put our parchment directly on top of the vegetables. I'm just going to set about a 10-minute timer, or we'll go 8 minutes. Okay, as soon as this comes to a full boil, I'm going to lower it. I will probably put my diffuser under it, and then I'll set a timer for 3 hours. Look at it then. But I generally like it to go for about 4 hours so the broth has lots of chicken flavor. And at that point, once you're done with that, you will need to season your broth. All right, so after our vegetables have cooked, I'm going to let them cool. I will let my stock cook, and we will be back in about 4 hours. My timer just went off, and it's been exactly 10 minutes. And I just want to show you how beautiful these vegetables are. Just take a spoon and taste the carrot, the celery, to make sure that it's tender. Perfect. For this small dice that I do here, 10 minutes is perfect. If you're making it larger, it may take longer, but I want you to see that the vegetables have not stuck to the pan. There's absolutely no color whatsoever. And we will pull it off and let it cool. You can see that my pan is perfectly clean. So here you go. Here are our vegetables. We'll let this completely cool, and then I can refrigerate them. Just put a piece of saran over the top and refrigerate these. Also, I wanted to mention that my stock did start to come to a boil, so I immediately lowered it. I did put the diffuser on there, and I do cover it mostly. I do leave it open just a little bit. So I am almost done with our soup. This is all the bones and the fat and any of the cartilage, everything is in here to be thrown away. And here is all of our beautiful meat, which it's very easy to pull apart. It's not difficult at all. I still have a little bit of breast meat here, which I am going to just cut up. I'm going to do one other little interesting addition to our soup. And I suggest you trying it, especially if it's going to be your dinner. Did you ever hear of the saying, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, tonight's soup, we're going to have both. Soft-boiled eggs, and 1 egg per person. So I'm just going to put in 2 eggs right now into the water and set a 6.5-minute timer, and then place it into some cool water so it doesn't continue cooking. So this is for a soft-boiled egg. I still have the wishbone, which I'm going to let it dry, and Bob and I can make a wish. And I also have some beautiful parsley that I just went and took from the garden. So I'm just going to shift out a little bit of parsley for the soup as well. Here we go. And I'm going to add all of these beautiful vegetables. Here we go. So here are all of our vegetables. Oh, that looks beautiful. I'm gonna run out of room here. There's so much meat here. It's gonna go straight to the top of this pot. All right, so here are all of our ingredients for the soup. And it is nice to chop your herbs close to when you're going to use them, so all the flavor stays in. You don't lose any flavor of the herbs. All right, here's our parsley, all set. And that's our timer for our eggs. I have a bowl of ice water here ready for me. And let me just remove the eggs so they don't continue to cook. I'm going to peel our egg, our soft-boiled egg. This adds even more protein to the soup, and it will add another dimension to the soup, which I think is delicious. Here's our egg. 1 is enough for now. We're just going to plate 1. I have some cooked pasta here. If you do this ahead of time, I used to always cook my pasta ahead of time. I would put it in a Ziploc bag, and then you can always microwave it, or you could blanch it in boiling water again, but for me, the microwave works perfect. So here's our pasta. Let's put some in the bottom of our bowl. That looks great. And going to add, oh, this soup looks wonderful. First, I'll put a lot of the meat and vegetables, and then I can go in and add a little more broth. That looks great. Okay. And then let's quickly wipe this down. I will finish it with a little bit of fresh parsley. Oh, another herb that I love in this soup is also chives. So if you have some nice chives growing in your garden, chives is wonderful in this soup. Okay. There we go. And now let me slice the egg. Oh, it's perfect. So nice, and they call them jammy eggs, right? Because it almost looks like jam. Black pepper over the top of the egg. And I have some malted sea salt, which I would add to the egg. Of course, your egg always needs a little bit of salt. And our soup is complete. And hopefully I've given you some nice, interesting ideas and you won't be sorry to spend a little bit of time in the kitchen making this soup. This, if you're not feeling well, this is definitely the best medicine. So thanks so much, everyone. Hope to see you again soon. I'm really looking forward to sitting down to this. Take care. Bye now.